It's Sunday, November 1st, 2020. This is All About Your Benjamins and your weekly mixtape and week in review video. Hope you had a great week. Want to say a belated happy birthday to our little guy Silas. We didn't forget it, but I'm actually recording this on Halloween night. Today was his birthday and just wanted to give him a quick shout out before we dive into the headlines that may or may not be impacting your financial plan and portfolio. And as you can see on the mixtape, if you're watching this on allaboutyourbenjamins.com, only a few headlines to get through. The first one we're going to talk about is the U.S. economy. We touched on it last week, but just more data showing that in the third quarter, the economy recovered in a significant way, but still is not back to where it was before all of this mess of COVID. So you can see in this chart, I don't know if it'll be here, if the screen's going to pop it up. I got to see how it shows up in editing, but this chart shows the GDP going up, declining back down, and recovering back up, but we still haven't got back up to that point before everything went down. So GDP recovered, but not back to where it is. So it looks like this year we're going to have a shrinking economy, but experts are anticipating that next year will be better. So we'll wait and see. Obviously, we have no idea. There's a headline at the very end that we'll talk about briefly that will really play into what happens in the next year. But that is the data through the third quarter of this year. And with the data there, this is not the only reason that the markets had a tough time this month, but we had the worst month since March. I don't really like these headlines. I feel like they're a little clickbaity, but they're out there anyways, and it is just a benchmark to see. But it's kind of silly to talk about the worst month or even the best month when times are good since 4 or 5 months ago, 2 or 3 days ago. You always have these metrics that come out, but the markets are down. You can see in this article there is the three indexes, the S&P, the NASDAQ, and the Dow Jones were all down between 5 and 6% just in the last week. So it was a pretty ugly week. Last week wasn't very good either, but these things happen. The markets go up and down. You know that. We've talked about that many times, but it's something to keep an eye on as well as we go into next week, because obviously the upcoming week, everything is going to be about the election. So hopefully you've had a chance to vote early. I know that I did last week and was able to knock that out relatively quickly, so I don't have to worry about it on Tuesday. But hopefully you're going out voting, whoever your candidate is, but just going out and exercising your right. But it's going to create what could be a very chaotic week, at least in the headlines. Our lives will go on, but I don't think that it's going to be a quiet week by any means. So, but anyways, so the market in October did not have a strong month. We'll see what November holds into the rest of the year, but those are the numbers for the last month. Another big thing this past week, and it actually was, I felt like it was relatively quiet given everything leading up to the appointment of Amy Coney Barrett, but she was sworn in as the 115th Supreme Court Justice earlier this week. So again, leading up to the recommendation and then the appointment, a lot of news, a lot of headlines on that and focus. And then with her being sworn in, I felt like it was pretty quiet. And obviously there's a lot of other headlines going on with COVID cases picking back up, going into the election, all of those things. But given all the excitement about it beforehand, I was surprised at how quiet Monday evening was. And the final headline, I mentioned COVID a couple times, and the headline that will impact obviously next year's GDP in the U.S. and globally. Just had a note about Boris Johnson putting a mandatory stay at home in England as coronavirus cases surge. We saw France have a very similar thing this past week. There's a crazy picture that's floating around out there showing the traffic on the evening of the curfew and then the mandatory lockdown. So we're seeing over in Europe that numbers are surging like they are here and moving back to where we were back in the spring. Now, hopefully we don't have to go there just because it was not a fun experience, and now it's not even back to normal, and it's not that great. But going back to a full quarantine, staying in the house, obviously nobody wants that. But we're seeing that in other countries. It'd be interesting to see if we get to the point where we need to do that here. Will that approach change after the election? So who knows? But just wanted to put that out there as what's going on around the world. If you did not hear about that, some of the other countries are going back to a more conservative approach that we saw earlier in the spring. And obviously, if we go back to that, a lot of the ground that we made up in this third quarter, and the GDP would probably be given back as well because businesses would go back into shutting down. But we'll have to wait and see. So that is it for this week. Hope you again had a great weekend. We had a great weekend celebrating Silas, and we had a soccer tournament, which is why this is being recorded late on Halloween night. So as always, thank you for watching. If you have not already, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, go over and follow the blog, and make sure that you're catching everything that I'm putting out, and also my colleague Thomas Kopelman is putting out as well for Harmless Wealth. So with that, I'll let you get to your day. Have a great one, and we'll see you all in the next episode.